This is actually the first time I've worn heels in a really long time, and they're kind of plain heels, so I feel sorry if I let you know. They're there. I'm also laughing because Sherry just gave that really beautiful introduction, and that's not what I wrote. No, that was going to be my shtick. My opening line is. Thank you, Sherry. It's not mine. This is actually the first time I've worn heels in a really long time, and they're kind of plain heels, so I feel sorry if I let you down. They're there. I'm also laughing because Sherry just gave that really beautiful introduction, and that's not the one I wrote.
No, but it's on the back of the program.
No, that was going to be my shtick. My opening line is, I wrote that introduction. So now that that's gone, it's all downhill from here. I was thinking that, it's on the back of the program, though.
It is on the back of the program.
So it's in print.
Yes,
So
she is in print.
That counts as a publication. Okay. That's where I am. As a writer, I'm living where most writers reside, in that crippling insecurity of whether or not we have enough publications to be truly considered a writer. And that's where I am. And so at the back of the program, I'm going to add that to my resume. What I've learned is that being a writer, it's not the list of things published under your name, but it's the scraps of paper that follow you around your house. It's the boxes that are filled with your old writing that you move from house to house to house, no matter what your husband says. It's not being able to go to sleep at night until you have something written down. It's being the crazy woman in the corner of the party scrawling things down because you have to transcribe that conversation. Being a writer is responding when outraged. I'm going to write a letter. My father would always say that my writing career began when I started my autobiography in kindergarten. And his favorite quote, was the chapter titled, Age 4, the Poet. I did journal extensively throughout my childhood. I even do now on occasion. And these entries have become the basis for many stories, fiction or not, and they've helped me introduce myself in several of my memoir chapters, as I do here. In my journal as a 12-year-old, I made lists of goals. Stop biting nails, a 100% grade average, better dancer, better at sports, control PMS, get new shoes, get $100. I quoted Operation Ivy and my brother's basketball plaque on the same page. I wrote a poem about a blind squirrel and a saga about a hunter killed by his own dogs who haunted the woods every full moon. I was 12 and I wrote about things that troubled me. A lot of those things still trouble me. In working on being a writer, I've wasted a lot of time being discouraged. I've wasted a lot of time thinking I wasn't good enough for things or that I was too good for things. I wasted a lot of time doing things that weren't writing. And so what I have now are all of these pieces, things I've written. Some of them published, some of them will never be published. But none of these were part of a grand ambition to write. They were part of a natural curiosity. What would this sound like if I wrote it down? Sometimes it just made me feel better. And this is why I hate when people tell me they've thrown out things that they've written. I don't think I've thrown away a single thing I've written. Just last week, my son, he ate, not that one, the littler one. He wrote a scrap of paper that had been in my wallet. He ate it. It had been in my wallet for 2 years. He ate it. Killed me inside. But my whole shtick hinges on the potential of old writings. Just a paragraph here, a paragraph there, and I connect the dots, and then I have a story. And sometimes I'm lucky and I sit down and I get a story in one sitting. I think that happened once, okay? But it was a really good time, I'm still talking about it. And most of the time, I sit down and I shelve things 3 or 4 times indefinitely and come up with nothing. But I'm not really here to talk to you about the writing process because we're not in a writing class. We've all been there, we know it. But I do want to tell you, you keep the things that you've written. Keep them and save them because you think that they're crap right now. You save them for 10 years, 5 years, and they crystallize. And in 5 years, 10 years, you find out you have crystallized crap. Whatever it may be. Sorry, I should only speak for myself. But our writing, it changes us, and it changes with us. So take it with you, keep it all, and visit it often. I held on to one piece for many years. Through 2 different moves, I moved it and moved it, and I couldn't finish it. And I know several people that I work with, they told me, you have to force it. Even if you're not inspired, you have to force it. And I couldn't finish it. And guess what? My grandmother died. It's okay, it's not this. She was old and mean. But it's okay. but that's what it took for me to finish that story. So sometimes we're just not ready to finish the story yet. You have to be patient. The other part of being a writer I found is you have to write. I know that sounds obvious or it sounds easy, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Life always gets in your way. There's never a good time. I'm laughing because as I considered this talk, you've asked me, just talk about your life as a writer. Thank you. And I'm thinking of the pie chart of my day, and 80% of it, I'm up to my elbows in diapers, and I'm covered in half-chewed food, which may or may not be my own. And so I'm dragging my son up and down the driveway in a wagon. Okay. He was in a wagon. Cranky baby, and I'm dragging him up and down the driveway, and I'm reading this book. It's called The Prize Winner of Defiance, Ohio by Terry Ryan. It's about a mother who supported her, gazillion children through writing little jingles. And she wrote, "Mom hadn't left her career behind those many years ago after all. She took it with her wherever she went." And I thought, that's the story I'm telling, is that my writing has never left me. It's been with me all along. And this willingness to write, it carved out a career path for me. It led me to graduate school. It led me to editing. It led me here. So this career path, I started when I was 15, and I was a cleaning lady. It's an anonymous, quiet profession. And if you want to find out anything about people, just go through their garbage. The first story I ever published is titled Dust to Dust. And it's about a lady who steals dust from people's houses and collects it in jars. I've never done that. But I wrote a story about it. I worked at a hotel front desk throughout my undergraduate degree, and it was fantastic getting all of my homework and my studying done. But it was also fantastic for the adventures. There was a Scandinavian heavy metal band that rolled up in a red chrome, big giant buzz that said Motel Hell across the banner. There was a months-long undercover drug cooperation with the Toledo police force that I single-handedly upended. There was the man who booked a room with us so he would have a place to take a shower because he was staying at the hospital while his wife was dying. And there was a raccoon lady. She stayed with us every week, if not a few times a week, and she couldn't sleep in her apartment just up the road here at Ottawa Hills. She couldn't sleep because of the raccoons scratching in her walls. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about the raccoon lady. She was small like me, so I could only see the top of her head, half of which was buried in her oversized bag, while she searched through its contents for her credit card. It was something of a Mary Poppins purse, which perhaps could apply to the purses of many women, but in this case, she drove her own hyperbole by commenting out loud to herself about each item she came across. "I need to put that ticket stub in my scrapbook. That was a good movie. Oh boy, don't lose that." Some of the items ended up on the turquoise formica between us, placed carefully by a dry hand with ridged fingernails, the crinkled tissue, a tube of chapstick lined with lint where the label was peeled back, hotel pens that still used the old company logo. We hadn't been at Sheridan in years. "I need to get a purse to have inside my purse so that I can organize all of these things together." "Yes," I said. "Sometimes I think I should just carry around a tackle box." For a moment, the rummaging stopped. She peered upwards at me, eyebrow first. It seemed she considered her response but thought better of it, or didn't think about it long enough, because she returned her focus to clicking her teeth and rustling inside of the bag. Would you look at that? Only 2 more punches and a free coffee. After about 2 years of regular visits, her son came in from out of town and he booked a room. He was admitting his mother to the psychiatric ward. For many years, I was a chiropractic assistant. I administered therapies on patients initially, as I describe here. There are those patients who ask me all sorts of questions, and that tends to make me uncomfortable. I don't appreciate making major topics or events in my life small talk, while this patient is lying. There are those patients who ask me all sorts of questions, and that tends to make me uncomfortable. I don't appreciate making major topics or events in my life small talk, while this patient is lying half naked, face down on the table, and more than likely their butt crack is hanging out. Or I'm staring at this gross mole on their back. It looks like a not completely popped bubblegum bubble. Or I'm noticing that half of their back hairs are curly, but the other half are not. And I wonder, if they went to Australia, would the curly hairs and straight hairs be on the opposite sides of their backs? Or why are your hairs sticking together? Because your back bumps congealed with one large, dirty hair. Why don't you spend less time making small talk with me and more time with each other? Perhaps it is not surprising that I became the office's poison pen letter writer, making demands to insurance companies and attorneys' offices. I wrote thank yous, I wrote screw yous, and I provided templates for all of the front-end employees who worked there. In each of these places, and there were more, I'm leaving out when I sold dirt, I did that. In each of these places, I carved out my own space. Within the jobs themselves, I found ways to use writing to my own advantage and to the advantage of my employers, and this led to my advancement. Eventually, it led to me thinking, maybe I should go to graduate school for this. So, even if, in my own time, even if I just made observations and wrote them down and secreted the scrawlings away, I had taken the time in the moment to write them down, and in the end, this has made all the difference. On my path, I did the least amount of writing, my own writing, when I was teaching. It's a busy job. Now, I wrote constantly, between handouts and feedback on student paper, but very little of it was for me, aside from some journaling. The editing that I've been doing in the last 5 years grew very organically from my work as a teacher. This is a really important point to make for me, because just as I finished my master's degree here at UT, I had a baby the week later. Maybe it was 10 days. But I felt like I had all this potential and all of this momentum, and it just came to a screeching halt. And I love my children. Insert your own platitudes here about parenting, but there's something to be said about the time machine effect. And not that, oh, kids grow up too fast, but that your own life stops and everyone else moves forward. And you are just stuck in this moment. And so here I am with all this momentum, all of this potential, and a new baby. And I was in the English department office, and my new baby was playing with Dr. Gregory's new baby. And I think I just asked her, quite awkwardly, and I'm talking about Dr. Gregory, not the baby. What am I supposed to do now? I have this degree, I'm on top of the world, I have this new baby, and I'm in a different world. I don't know what to do. She said a lot of things to me, and I don't know what all of them were. But what struck me was the phrase, she just said, just wait and see what grows organically out of what you've been doing. At the time, that meant very little. But it stuck with me. You know what I mean? It stuck with me enough. I shouldn't say it meant little, but it didn't make sense to me yet. And then this past week, I've been writing this little talk and thinking about my life as a writer and what I'm going to say to you all. And I came up with that sentence. The editing grew very organically from my work as a teacher. Boom. There it was. And the editing really has allowed me to work at home, from home, and still be a mother and do all of those things. So it really did grow organically. And it has come to a point after 5 years that I can do it, and I've got a waiting list, and it's happening. Editing has been really great in that it's the most willing students. They come to the chopping block and they say that they're willing to not only read my feedback, because that's half the battle, they read my feedback and they use it, they digest it, and they use it to make their writing better and to make their story better. This is the dream of all writing teachers, and I have found it. It's mine. A few things about editing. First of all, it's not just proofreading. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but I do just want you to know that I appreciate people who can point out typos in a restaurant menu. I appreciate if you have a pinky grasp with grammar and you use it to castigate the masses. That's a small part of what I do, okay? Usually what I'm doing is I'm trying to help the writer find their voice and help them tell the story that they want and need to tell. That's my job. Also, I would just tell you, because I'm up here and I'm on my soapbox, but you do need an editor. You don't necessarily have to pay for one. Get your mom, get your best friend, but get someone who's not just going to tell you, it's good, I like this. I know I'm going to make enemies, but having experienced the wonders of teaching freshman composition, you don't want to get the feedback that you got back on your freshman composition peer review. We're good. Okay, I worried about that, but I was going to say it. You need someone who can be honest with you. And if you can't afford an editor, I get it. I couldn't. But get a beta reader. Get someone to look it over. So, okay, that's my spiel. And in writing throughout my life, it's been this number of snapshots, some of which I've shared with you. These are time capsules. What it comes down to, what I realize about myself, is that I'm sentimental to a ridiculous extent. I mean, it's like this. I use plastic grocery bags, because I'm a horrible person, and I use plastic grocery bags, not canvas ones that say I'm better than you. I use plastic grocery bags. And sometimes when I'm changing the liner of my garbage can, I think, I wonder what I brought home in this. No, I need to get out more often. But I honestly, and sometimes, this is how bad it is. Sometimes I actually keep the receipt in the bag so that I can look at it and be like, 6 months ago, I bought artichoke hearts. Heavy breathing. No, it's ridiculous. But my point is that the little things matter. And these little things make up the big things. I'm several chapters into a memoir at this point, and I'm actually having to probably branch off and make a separate book, if you can imagine this, about my adventures riding the bus here in Toledo, Ohio. I met one guy on the bus 10 years ago. I went to his wedding. This is me on the bus, all right? So I was going to share with you my adventures riding the bus. This particular day, I reached the bus stop without much to say in the way of complaint, and was reading patiently when I heard a holler. It wasn't a word, not an intelligible one anyway, and it wasn't quite loud enough to characterize as a shout. Someone was hollering at me. Across the street, a short man dressed in jeans and a khaki-colored jacket was waving at me. He was still hollering, but the traffic rushing past stole each word from his mouth and carried it with them, so I couldn't make out what he was saying. Finally, there was a break in the cars coming, and he took the moment to dash across the street towards me. He was still waving his arms at me, which I didn't understand, since I hadn't stopped staring at him since he first caught my attention. In the middle of each wave, he added a little hop, and then he hunkered down, and he created this strange little bobbing dance. I broke my stare just for a moment to steal a look around me. Is anyone else seeing this? When I looked back, he'd made it to the curb. There wasn't a lot of room left between where I was standing and where he was bob-walking, but he didn't stop or even slow down until he was standing directly in front of me. Is this where you wait for the bus? He was panting, no doubt from his strange little trek across the street. His eyes were stunning, icy blue. So stunning that I hate to describe them that way, even in my own mind, because it sounds so cheesy. Especially when the next item of the description is his hair, which was, get this, glossy black and tousled carelessly. Tousled. You hear that? So maybe maybe that's your kind of thing. I know plenty of romance novels that describe their moms with ice. No. This dude went full 6-year-old. Smeared his arm, clear across his face, up to the elbows, leaving slug trails the whole way. Kindergarten track marks. I tried to do the polite thing and not watch as he completed this maneuver, but it was like he took a step even closer to me. Really, he asked? Then why is there a bench across the street? He pointed a stubby yellow finger at the bench. His tone wasn't adversarial, but matter of fact. There was, in fact, a bench across the street, directly across from the bus stop. To save time, I removed my diatribe about having benches where there aren't no bus stops. But it's in there. Okay? I don't know why the bench is over there, man, but the bus stop is here. Yeah, I waited there for a long time yesterday, and the bus didn't come. He's stepping from one foot to the other, and in a strange sort of polyrhythm, his hands in and out of his pockets, one at a time. So you're catching the bus. Where you heading? I'm taking this to campus. His eyes are darting every which way, looking at the bench, looking at the trees behind us, glancing past my shoulder to the intersection. There's a gas station there, but nothing else too interesting. Maybe I'll go to campus. I need to do something with my days now. I gotta get a job. He sees me watching him and asks, "Know where I can get a job? Something on this bus route?" I'm halfway into my second sentence about how to take a transfer when his eyes bulge and he takes a huge leap back from me. He's frozen for a moment, his eyes circling about in a panic, and then, I shit you not, he bounds into the little wet forest behind us and hunkers down behind a tree. I take a look at what he'd seen just before his eyes pop out of his head. There's a cop car pulling out of the gas station, blinker on, waiting for its turn to enter traffic. "Hey, buddy," I say over my shoulder. "What you got going on?" He chuckles nervously and raises his voice so I can hear him from where he's standing. "Oh, it's nothing. Don't you worry. Cops just make me a little nervous sometimes. Can you tell me when he passes?" I nod. I'm just where I was 5 minutes ago, standing underneath the bus stop sign, cars trailing by. Except now, there's a dude hiding in a tree in the forest behind me. A dude who is actively hiding from a police car. The police car takes a turn and I offer a limp wave as it drives by on the scene. "Yeah, I think I'm going to start taking some engineering classes." He's still talking to me, calling out casual conversation from behind the tree that is blocking him from the view of law enforcement. No kidding. Engineering's pretty tough. What can I do? I might as well continue the conversation. At this point, it seems wiser than ignoring the dude who is engaging in casual conversation with me from behind the tree that is blocking him from the view of law enforcement. My sister was real good at that stuff. I bet you I could hack it if I tried. I gotta start doing something with my days. Yeah, school will keep you busy. I turn to the side so I can watch him and watch for the bus at the same time. He's crouched down, still bobbing up and down nervously. "What are you taking classes for?" he asks, wiping his nose again. "English," I say. "Huh. What are you going to do with that degree?" I wish it weren't a true story. The piece I've been working on the longest that I really would have liked to have dedicated this whole talk to is the memoir I'm writing around and about my dad. I think it's fitting that I'm here talking about it. My dad financed my degrees from this university. You can imagine that. So I brought his writing just so I had it here. You know, it's here. I'm going to read from you. I'm going to hear from you, Dad. Don't worry. It is a patchwork of letters, some that he wrote, some that I wrote, memories captured. I'm going to throw his obituary in there because I wrote it and it was really good. He knew that I was writing it, not his obituary, but the memoir. And he provided me with a lot of information. I don't know if he ever knew that I never expected to finish it while he was alive. I might add that I didn't think he was going to die. Yes. I had things to ask you. Really, horrendous things. These letters came about when I was 14, and just very quickly, I I had known he was in the war, and that was about it. And then when I was 14, he wrote to the VA for, it's a long story, but I think it's very short. He wrote to the VA for help, for assistance in evaluation. And he said, hey, will you read this? My son's editing it, 14. And I read it, and here it is. All of the gory details, almost day by day, of, not quite that much, but of him and his year in Vietnam. I'm 14. And as I said, basically, it's just letters back and forth between me and my dad. I have little slips of memory. So I'll share this with you. If I can find it. Excuse me.
Under a shameless plug.
This is a snippet about growing up with Dad. I must have known fairly early on that my dad was a soldier because of my blurred and lit memories from our family trip to Washington, D.C. I crisply recall visiting the Vietnam Memorial. I knew what it was for some reason. Maybe someone had told me about it. It was a black wall that stretched on and on, and it was covered in names. It's the only time in my memory that I rode on my father's shoulders. Shoulder rides, as we all know, are reserved for chicken fighting. And for those long treks you go on with your family, stay to the zoo or to watch fireworks or to the war memorial. Pictures of my own son on his father's shoulders are smeared with smiles and cutesy captions. But here I sat on my father's shoulders and looked at his reflection in the black stone. These are the names of the soldiers who died? Yes. One syllable. Were these your friends? Some. Did a lot of your friends die, Dad? I couldn't see his face when he responded, but I still hear the thickness of his voice when he said slowly and deliberately, most. So far, it's been a conversation between my father and I, and there is one outstanding moment that I'd like to just finish up with, and that is when my son was learning how to talk, and it took a long time to do it. My son had an excellent way of communicating long before he was able to talk. He had one syllable, that he used to communicate all manner of things. Varied, of course. It might be or and most people who interacted with him were very impressed with the amount of information he was able to convey through such a simple syllable. His gestures and intonation helped quite a bit, to be sure. In fact, my brother was endlessly amused at hearing me scold the 2-year-old, "You butch." Sure, he'd only say, but I knew what he meant. So it was a big deal when he learned new words, courtesy of the McNaughton 4th of July fireworks displays. He talked about little else but fireworks for weeks, if not months afterwards. And by talked about, I mean that no matter what anyone said to him, he responded with foot-stomping, arms raised, thunderous boom. It didn't help that he discovered his dad's not-so-well-hidden stash of bottle rockets in the garage. And he spent every waking moment campaigning to get outside, where he made a beeline to the garage and emerged with a fistful of bottle rockets, poking out every which way, saying, boom. I told my dad this story when I came back when Riley was still 2, and he said, yeah, I have the same story. And he told me the story, only it was not the same story. And this is what my father wrote, and it's in this letter here. These are his words. One time in Quang Tri province, I had to deliver some fresh batteries to a squad guarding a bridge with some ARBN troops. I was flown out in a little 2-seat helicopter. I've forgotten the name of the kind of helicopter it was, OH-13. It looked like a fishbowl upside down on an erector's bed. The pilot set me down in a cleared area at one end of the bridge. As I was walking towards the bridge, the ARBNs began to yell and gesticulate. They managed to communicate with signs from a distance that I was standing in a minefield. I was going to get back in the little helicopter, but the pilot also realized the danger and took off before a misstep by me could blow us both up. I was left alone, standing in the middle of a minefield with the ARPN and some of my troops watching me. It was getting dark. I had no way out, and I could not stay there in the open with night coming on. So I lit up a cigar, walked out of the minefield, and climbed into the fence. Everybody thought I was some kind of man of steel, but I still wake up shivering from that one. The next day, the helicopter pilot came back to pick me up. I told him I'd rush walk. I hitchhiked back. I suppose I can't blame him for abandoning me in a minefield, but I do. In closing, I fully intend, of course, to continue and expand my writing, as each job I've tried to show you has given me snapshots, things to work with, and all of my education has led me further towards the path of writing. And so this first one, editing. I've been doing it for 5 years, and it's going very well. And it has made me want to write so much. So I'm surrounded by talented writers, and I'm thinking, I need to be on the other side of the computer screen, trying to do what I've been fighting for every day with my writing and just with my life. And that is, she was the single artificer of the world in which she sang. And when she sang, the sea, whatever self it had, became the self that was her song, for she was the maker.
I wonder, how are you doing on naming the tune?
We're good.
Okay.